Dethroning Your Inner Critic YouTube channel. For those of you who don't know me, I am Joanna Kleinman, licensed psychotherapist, empowerment coach, best-selling author of the book Dethroning Your Inner Critic, the 4-step journey from self-doubt to self-empowerment, and host of the Dethroning Your Inner Critic podcast and YouTube channel, and creator of the Mind Method and the Mastering Your Mind program and community. And today is a very powerful interview with my mom about my father's progress into death. This video was made weeks before his death. And my mother shares some very deep and profound insights into dealing with grief and loss. So I hope you'll listen, and I hope it inspires you if you are dealing with grief or loss or transition or change. Okay, so I'm sitting here with my mom, Judy Fox, and my father is in the end stage of his life. He's got weeks to months left to live. And I want to talk to you about how you are facing your grief and how you're facing his death and how you're facing the uncertainty of life right now without being in suffering, right? That's a really unusual thing, right? That when we're faced with something like what you're facing, to be able to be in grief, but yet not suffer. So I'd love to hear what your perspective is about that.
So just a little context and a little background about this. My husband and I have been married for 55 years. We have been on a path of self-exploration together, individually, and together as a couple. So we've had some rich experiences together. And we have served as each other's teacher throughout the 55 years of our marriage. Sometimes the lessons were hard taught, hard learned. Yeah. But we've really grown tremendously as individuals and as a couple.
Yes.
So there's just a rich background.
Yes.
He was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer 7 years ago. So my grieving, the loss of my husband, began 7 years ago. Now, we're all dying.
Yes.
There's no question, it's a one-way street, There's no getting out of this.
Right.
And culturally speaking, I think we are all programmed culturally to resist death, or to not want death, to not welcome death.
Yes.
It may be part of the DNA of being human. It may be more our culture. I don't know other cultures, so I don't know. And so 7 years ago, I was very much thrown into fear of the uncertain, fear of that I was going to lose him, fear that I wasn't ready. Lots and lots and lots of fear and lots of resistance to what I was being dealt and what he was being dealt, which 7 years ago, when we first heard the diagnosis, was a death sentence, a short-term death sentence. And so we've been on this journey toward knowing that end of life is coming for quite a while. And we went, and it was a roller coaster. He ended up miraculously going into major remission after surgery, and he was cancer free for 2 years, and then his cancer came back. So and that was 5 years ago. So at that point, I was again faced with the reality that death could be imminent.
Yes.
And I needed to get my hands and arms around that too. And I certainly took into my practice something that I've learned over the course of the years of my lifetime, which is one day at a time, one step at a time.
Yep.
And one step at a time, 5 years ago, led to a rich life. He was being treated, but it led to a rich, rich life. And it also gave us time to be together in the context of knowing that death was closer than if he didn't have a recurrence of pancreatic cancer.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that I've been working the challenge edge of surrendering into losing him since for 7 years, and that more actively for 5 years.
Yes.
And so now that this time is here, I think I have been I've been given the opportunity and the gift of surrendering into acceptance.
Yes.
Part of grief, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross talks about 5 stages of grief. At this point in my stage of grief, I am in the acceptance stage.
Yes.
I lived through the depression stage. I've lived through the bargaining stage. I've lived through the resistance of what's coming.
Yes.
And I am surrendered to it.
Yep.
Surrendered to it doesn't mean I don't have sadness.
Of course.
It doesn't mean I don't have uncertainty about what life is going to be like without my partner of 55 years.
Yes.
Of course I do.
Yes.
But I'm not resisting it.
Yeah.
And that's the key to not suffering.
Yes.
Right there is that I'm surrendering to it.
Yeah.
And I'm being with it. I'm being present to it. And I'm also being present to the darker emotions.
Yeah.
So that they come over like a wave and I surrender into it.
Yes.
I don't resist that either. I don't try to fix it. I don't try to change it.
Yes.
I don't try to alter it.
Yes.
I just let it be. And that also is contributing to my not suffering.
Yeah.
At this time. But the key is not resisting. Surrender.
So in other words, your willingness to really lean into all of your emotions instead of holding on to, I think what a lot of people do is they try to figure out, how do I get a handle on my emotions? How do I get a handle on how life is going to go and how life is going to be, right? It's almost like our minds can jump to these worst case scenarios. And what I've witnessed in you is you've had moments where you have been there. You've been in that automatic, oh my God, how's life going to be and what's going to happen? But then you are able to really ground yourself in being fully present right? So what is that like for you?
So the awareness of watching how my mind can take me into a future that doesn't exist, even if it's in the immediate, the immediate future that doesn't exist. Tomorrow doesn't exist.
Yeah.
I don't know how my husband, your father, is going to be tomorrow. I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. I don't know what his pain level is going to be. I don't know what his agitation level is going to be. I don't know what he's going to be going through tomorrow.
Yes.
And I can notice, I can watch my mind going into worry about that.
Yeah.
What's he going to be like? What am I going to be like? How am I going to handle such and such if this happens?
Yes.
And I watch it and I remind myself, because I see it, because I watch it, I remind myself to come back to present.
Yeah.
And remind myself that I can trust that I can handle whatever it is. I can actually trust that who I am can handle it.
Yeah.
The fear is, can I handle it?
Yeah.
Afraid that I can't handle it.
Yeah.
But I can remember, yes, I can.
And what would you say to somebody who is afraid that they can't handle it?
It's a great question. So what would I say to someone who says, but I don't trust that I can handle it?
Right.
And I guess I would say, you have to take that fear and take one step in front of the other and do it anyway.
Yes.
Because that fear isn't going to go away.
Right.
It's never going to go away.
Right.
So as long as what's right in front of me is what I have to take care of and what I have to face, then that's just the way it is. It is what it is. And I put one foot in front of the other and get through the day, one day at a time.
And the fear that you're not going to be able to handle it is actually in our mind, right?
Without question.
So it's,
well, the fear is in your mind.
Yes.
Yeah.
The fear that that there's something that you won't be able to handle. No matter how, painful it is, that the way that we really suffer from something that we're facing that is incredibly painful is when we have these scenarios in our minds and then we mistake the scenarios for what's actually happening. And our brain can't tell the difference. So we can have these mental pictures in our mind about how that thing is going to go. Like you can have a mental picture in your mind about, how is it going to be? How is my life going to be after he dies? Or how am I going to be when he's really on his, final days of life or final hours of life? But it's all made up in your mind.
It's an imagined
future. An imagined future.
It's total imagined. It's total made up.
Right.
It's created in my mind.
Right.
And then I create a future that doesn't exist in my mind.
Yes.
I get afraid of it in the present.
Yes.
Because I make it very real.
Yes.
Rather than seeing that it's created, it's made up, it's imagined, it's an imagined future.
Yes.
And that fear of an imagined future being the truth, being the way that it's going to be, creates suffering.
That's right. That's right. And that's really the difference between a life of suffering and a life of peace. Or a life of overwhelm and a life of balance, or a life of stress and anger, or a life of, being able to be with what is.
Yes. The thing I want to say though about stress. So handling the day-to-day things of caretaking someone who's in their dying process is stressful.
Yes.
There's a lot of stress involved in trying to make him comfortable, making sure that he's safe.
Yes.
Making sure, because he's very weak, and so safety and falls are an issue. Making sure that he is comfortable and safe are the two major things at this point in his life. Yeah. Well fed or well hydrated is not necessary now because he's in the transition stage. It's really about comfortable and safe. Yeah. But ensuring that is stressful. Yeah. So it's not like this is stress-free because I'm not suffering. Right. I'm just not suffering because it's stressful. That's a big difference. Including the stress of the circumstances that I'm going through, that I'm facing day by day right now. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So, and not resisting it, not fearing it. Got it. Not making it into something that is not judging it as bad or horrible or I don't want it, or it's like, no, surrendering. This is who I am, and this is what I'm about, and this is what I am doing.
And recognizing that you can do what you do in the moment to try to make him comfortable or keep him safe. And that's not fully in your control. You can do what you can do.
Absolutely.
And so even the surrender to that right now I am taking this action to make him comfortable or keep him safe. Yes. And I have to surrender to the fact that I part of
be able to.
That's right.
So there's a point that I wanted to make, which is that bearing witness to someone's end of life process is a gift.
For sure.
If I'm not resisting it, if I am surrendering to it, I can experience it as a gift that I get to be bearing witness to the man who I've shared my life with, to his end of life process. And I can be fully present to my love for him.
Yes.
Because I'm not suffering.
Wow.
Yeah. Because suffering robs me of, and resistance robs me of the presence of bearing witness to his end of life process.
Wow.
And to be fully able to love.
Wow.
And be present to my love for him and his love for me.
Wow.
No matter what he looks like.
Right. Right.
But if I'm resisting it, if I'm suffering, if I'm worried, if I'm afraid, I can't be in the presence of love. They can't occupy the same space at the same time.
That's amazing. That's so true. Wow. Now, I also want to ask you about getting complete in your relationship with him of, you said 55 years. Because you had some tough times together. It wasn't always smooth sailing, as most marriages aren't, right? I mean,
I often will say we've been hell and back again.
yes, you have.
Many times.
Yes, you've been to hell and back many
Yeah.
times.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
And so I think that also is a really important thing. How did you navigate that throughout your marriage, and how are you now so complete in that 55-year journey? It's a big question.
Right. Well, there are two parts to it.
Yeah.
So navigating it over the course of time, I can't give you a formula.
Right.
I can't give you a how-to,
Yeah.
a manual.
Yes.
I can say that what sustained our navigating through is the commitment to grow and develop. So ideally, you know, the cliche would be for me to say the commitment to our love for each other, the commitment to our vows, the commitment to marriage.
Nah.
No.
That's
like the romantic answer,
right? And that's not always enough, by the way.
Right.
Okay.
Right,
Just because you're married, some relationships you shouldn't stick around for, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But one of the things that about each of us is that again, this is a gift from the universe, that we found ourselves on the path of each of us not on the same path, on our individual paths toward growth and development and expansion into consciousness.
Yes.
And that the breakdowns in our relationship kept emerging as an opportunity for greater growth, greater consciousness, greater awareness. And that's the way that it occurred for each of us. So we were able to sustain navigating through it in a powerful way. And so that process over 55 years, over time, with the valleys and the peaks and the valleys and the peaks, with the crest or the trough of the wave, served my feeling very complete now at the ending of my relationship.
Wow.
In this form.
Yes.
My relationship is not ending.
No.
It's ending in this form as his body passes on.
Yeah. Wow.
But that I am so complete with the service that he has been for me in my growth and development, and in the service that I have been for him in his growth and development.
Wow.
In this life. Together. And that's what has me be complete, because I'm so grounded, I'm so clear. That this relationship, every iteration, up and down, in and out, has served my growth, and he has been my greatest teacher.
Especially the pain.
Absolutely.
That's been your greatest teacher.
Absolutely.
Wow. Oh my gosh. I'm always blown away by you, but I mean, especially from this conversation. This is huge. And I think you are making a huge difference for people that are listening to this, not just in how to grieve, but how to be connected in partnership, and how to deal with really challenging and uncertain circumstances, whatever they may be, how to just be able to sit in the unknown of all of it. Is there anything else that you haven't said that you feel you want to say to people that are hearing this?
There's something, maybe I've said it already, but just about surrendering into death, because death is such a part of life and such a part of living. I know that's a little cliche-ish, but it's very, very real for me.
Yes.
That bearing witness to his dying process is so much a part of the life I've had with him.
Yes.
So in and of itself, it is a completion.
Yes.
Of the life I've shared with him.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
So
amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for
Thank
this
you.
beautiful conversation.
Beautiful.